And when the Daily Wire hired her, it was the right moment in which she was able to communicate, let's be honest, the ideas of people like Thomas Sowell and Larry Elder to a younger, different audience. And that was great. But then other issues started to come along and became the current thing, as they say on the internet, whether that was the war in Ukraine, then Israel-Palestine. And then it was kind of the case that she didn't really know what she was talking about. She wasn't covering those issues in a way that is serious. Speaking plainly.
The Daily Wire versus Candace Owens situation isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Right after Candace Owens got fired from the Daily Wire, it seemed like Ben Shapiro was going on somewhat of a press tour, trying to save face for the Daily Wire, trying to say that he wasn't the one that fired Candace Owens. It was, a group decision or whatever the hell Ben Shapiro was trying to make up about it. We all know the truth that Ben Shapiro couldn't handle what Candace Owens was saying and about his favorite country and his allegiances to that country a lot more than it is to the United States. And obviously Candace Owens' allegiance is to Christianity and Ben Shapiro's is not. And even though a lot of other members of the Daily Wire say that their allegiance is to Christianity, just like Candace Owens, like this guy right here on the screen, Andrew Klavan, it's not. It's just his allegiance is to making money and to the Daily Wire. At least that's what it seems. I don't know the guy personally, so I don't want to talk too much trash about him. But just what he's saying about Candace Owens and the way that he's using this to like put her down and stuff like that, it just rubs me the wrong way. Like it really, really does, especially as someone who calls himself a fellow Christian along with Candace Owens. But let's check out these couple of clips here from this podcast where the Candace Owens versus Daily Wire is addressed directly by Andrew Klavan, and Candace Owens actually responded to this herself, and we'll go over that right here after these couple of clips. Let's check this out.
On the show, as Jeremy Boring, who runs the Daily Wire, said repeatedly, we believe this. We believe that Christ is king. I also believe in the cross of Christ, but if you burn the cross on somebody's lawn, it's no longer the cross of Christ. It's just a vehicle, a symbol of your toxic hatred. And so the way it was being used online as an attack on Jews, was simply worth refuting. And that got me some heat from people who felt like, what are you talking about? This is a totally innocent phrase. So there was a lot of blowback from it, and I don't know why no one else addressed it. I thought it was important to address it. I'd do it again. No one asked me to address it.
Well, we're asking you now, and there was something I wanted to ask you about, Andrew, which is...
To be clear, I don't think that using Christianity to put down any sort of group of people, whether that's skin color or ethnicity or even other religions, like I don't think that's what Christianity is all about. And there have been people in the past who have done that, historically and recently. I don't think that'll ever stop, where people use Christianity as kind of like a shield to where they can just say or do whatever they want and put down certain groups of people and use Christianity as a shield. I don't like that. That's not what Candace Owens was doing. That's not what the phrase Christ is king is doing. I don't think it's ever been that way. Yes, it like the phrase Christ is king is inherently an attack on other religions, I guess, because you're basically saying Christ is king, and if you don't believe that, then you're wrong. Like that's what Candace Owens is saying. And obviously Christianity is the only religion that believes that Christ is truly king. But every religion is, if you use that logic, every religion is a attack on all other religions, because none of them believe the same thing. That's why they're separate religions. So this whole conversation is just ridiculous to me. And the fact that Candace Owens was fired for saying Christ is king it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Unless Andrew Klavan is trying to make the claim that Candace Owens wasn't attacking the religion of Judaism, but more Christ is king is an attack on the people, like Jewish people, not the religion, like the people from Israel. I don't even know, man. Let's check out what Andrew Klavan had to say about this, though.
There is a kind of alternative theory that I've heard from various people, which is that anti-Semitism aside, really, Candace, as you say, is a very talented broadcaster. She looks fantastic on screen. She's very charismatic. She's great at communicating. And when the Daily Wire hired her, it was the right moment in which she was able to communicate, let's be honest, the ideas of people like Thomas Sowell and Larry Elder to a younger, different audience. And that was great. But then other issues started to come along and became the current thing, as they say on the internet, whether that was the war in Ukraine, then Israel-Palestine. And then it was kind of the case that she didn't really know what she was talking about. She wasn't covering those issues in a way that is serious. Speaking plainly, that's what some people have said to me. And And then it descended into, Bridget Macron as a man. And before you know it, Israel is discriminatory because there's a Muslim quarter in Jerusalem. And you just go, is this person really qualified to be commenting on these issues? Was it that, or was it specifically the anti-Semitism?
No, it was, for me, it was the stuff. It was the stuff that was being taken as anti-Semitic. I mean, she had been saying stuff that I've said on the air I don't think is true, like the moon landing was fake, and what was the other one? I can't remember, but the Macron one is a perfect example.
I would absolutely love for that was the best answer that Andrew Klavan could have given, because if he would have said, oh yeah, no, Candace Owens was just fired from the Daily Wire because she's unserious and she's not well informed enough about. Never mind. I was about to go into attacking this guy. So Shapiro real quick. I don't understand how many layers of clothes does this guy have on. He has it looks like he has 2 shirts under his button down and then also a blazer on top. Whatever. Anyway, got distracted for a second. But if he were to say that, oh, it's because she was unserious, if Ben Shapiro or anyone from the Daily Wire comes out and says it was just because she's unserious, wasn't well informed enough, then debate her. She's trying her best to get a debate with Ben Shapiro. Oh, I'm sure she would settle for Andrew Klavan as well. Debate her if she's unserious. But luckily for him, he gave the other answer, which is the cop-out answer from everyone at the Daily Wire, and apparently even for Christians, even for people who aren't from Israel or that country that Ben Shapiro loves so much. That anti-Semitism thing. Oh, that's just the shield for everything nowadays. Is that, oh, you're anti-Semitic, so I win, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the new racism. That's the new racist. That's the ultimate istophobe nowadays, is the anti-Semitism thing.
Of things that I just thought, 9/11, she was hinting was kind of an inside job, and these things don't make sense. I've actually researched.
And I'm sorry, last time, I keep saying it over and over again, the Daily Wire is the home, the refuge site for all the boomer conservatives who are just smart enough to know that mainstream media is lying to them, so they want to go find some alternative media, but they're not smart enough to realize that the Daily Wire doesn't even believe the things that they're saying. They just know they are the home for boomer conservatives who just want to believe the mainstream narratives and have that echo chamber repeated to them over and over again. Saying that Candace Owens questioning if 9/11 was an inside job, guys, go do any sort of research and you can see, I'm not going to say it for a fact, but you can see that Andrew Klavan is wrong here. You can see that Candace Owens is going down the correct line of questioning. You go look at the moon landing stuff. And look, I'm not somebody who obsesses over the moon landing stuff. I feel like there's a lot more important things to worry about in the day-to-day life. But if you just do research, there's a lot of weird things that happened with the moon landing. To this day, a lot of weird things happening surrounding the moon landing. Like, why do we not go back? It's like, if you actually do research into these things and you can see that Candace Owens isn't far off, or she's at least not wrong for asking the questions, but the Daily Wire and everyone involved just wants to pander to the boomer conservative. That's it. That's all they want to do.
The ones about the moon and 9/11 only because they were so prevalent, and they don't make sense to me, but at the same time, I don't feel uncomfortable that someone that I'm not connected to is saying those things on the air. But when you start saying things that, they're on the borderline. There's always a way of dodging out of these things. I was just asking questions, or I was just expressing the fact, my feeling that Christ is king. Even if you're dodging them, it seems to me that you would want to make sure that people don't mistake what you're saying for this hatred that has certainly done, in my opinion, just about enough damage. I think we've had just about enough anti-Semitism as we need. I think the anti-Semitism is just about topped off,
Now, there's plenty of people who disagree with you, Andrew. I'm going to be honest with you.
Apparently so. To me,
somebody let me know in the comments. This is something that I want to ask so badly, but I'm so scared to ask it because I don't know what the response is going to be. I don't know what the repercussions of asking it is going to be. Why is there so much anti-Semitism in the world? Like, the genuine, honest question. Why? It's not like, the Jews who are in the United States, like Ben Shapiro. It's not like he looks that much different from like a normal white Christian. Like he doesn't look different. Like if you didn't wear the little thing on his head, I always forget what it's called. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just genuinely don't. I forgot what it's called. If you didn't wear that, then you wouldn't really know that he's not just a normal white guy, So why is there so much anti-Semitism? Not just in the United States and not just in Germany, but across the globe. you know, they get banned from a lot of different countries, kicked out of a lot of different countries. There's been atrocities that happen to that people in a ton of different countries. Why is that? Like, genuine question. If anyone can answer in the comments. There's another clip here that I found was very, very interesting, where Andrew Klavan and these other guys are talking about Candace Owens as well, and cancel culture in general. Talking about cancel culture on the right. Let's check this out.
The low resolution critique that people might have is, what if Fox News had fired a one of their hosts or presenters for saying something that wasn't company policy at Fox News? I imagine some people might say, at the Daily Wire, there would be a lot of criticism of that. People would say this is cancel culture on the right and all the rest of it. That's kind of where I think that there's a fair discussion to be had.
I think the thing about cancel culture, and it is an interesting thing, because I believe that there are things that you should be roundly, attacked for saying, right? I mean,
sure.
I don't think we have to let everybody just scream slurs at one another. But the thing about cancel culture was that it continually defined.
If you enjoy content like this, and make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Redefined common speech as bigoted, and then killed people's careers for it. So if somebody said, for instance, I think homosexuality is a sin, suddenly you were hateful or phobic, instead of communicating thousands of years of traditional theology. So it was that the Overton window was being closed like a little slit, that you had to be this leftist to get through. And that's how I would define cancel culture. The Daily Wire has never been like that. I mean, Jeremy, I know that some of the things that people say make his head explode. He has never, ever come in and said, you can't say that on the air to me. And he's never said, you have to say this. That's just never happened. And so I feel...
Well, you probably never said anything that hurt the potential investors of the future for the Daily Wire, hurt the people, or hurt the relationship between the Daily Wire and the people who fund the Daily Wire, like Candace Owens was saying. And obviously I'm on the side of Candace Owens on this one. I'm not a huge Candace Owens stan or anything like that, but you got to respect the bravery of going down that line of questioning that many people in the conservative space, like 99% of people in the conservative space, are too scared to go down that line of questioning because they know where it ends up. It ends up with you being fired from any network that you work for and probably never getting any sponsors or investors ever again. But, Candace Owens, in my opinion, was fired because, Jeremy Boring and Ben Shapiro probably don't police the speech of the Daily Wire members very much until it comes to this issue. Number one, because Ben Shapiro's allegiance is to his favorite country over in the Middle East and not the United States. And number two, I'm sure a lot of their investors also have allegiance to Ben Shapiro's favorite country over there. So that's probably why. It's all to do with money with the Daily Wire. It's a business at the end of the day. Nothing wrong with being a business and focusing on generating revenue, but I wish they would be more open and honest about their motivations, and they're just not.
Like, at some point, a good example of this is Megyn Kelly, who was basically forced off the air for saying that wearing blackface isn't always bigoted, which is obviously true. It's an obvious true thing because all of the left's comedians have done it and nobody ever said a word about it. But because it was Megyn Kelly, because she's a little bit right of center, she's not that far right of center, but she's a little right of center, it was reason to silence her. That sort of thing has never happened at the Daily Wire. And we have had real arguments, both on air and behind the scenes, always friendly arguments, but intense arguments about where we stand on things. And I think as a conservative website, which is what we are, a conservative on-air magazine, we have a pretty wide range of opinions. I think, we have...
No, you don't. You don't. The only like the opinions of the Daily Wire, I can give you. I don't even watch any members of the Daily Wire, but like they basically just tell you all the same things that mainstream media tells you, except they just tell you that also with a side of telling you that the mainstream media is bad. That's it. They tell you 9/11 wasn't an inside job. It was a terrorist attack from an outside source. They tell you that the moon landing was real. They tell you that the United States was fully in the right with the bombing of Japan for World War II. Like everything, they even tell you to get the jab. They tell you, that everything that happened in 2020 was fine. They tell you everything the mainstream media tells you. Like, give me an example of them spewing out a narrative that isn't the same as the mainstream media. but they also just tell you with a side of, oh yeah, mainstream media is bad. You should watch us instead. That's the only
said a
difference.
lot of things and disagreed about a lot of things. Nobody has said a word about it. So again, I don't think we are required to say everything. I don't think we're required to pay people to have every point of view. But it's a pretty wide-ranging right-wing site.
So
Yeah, no, it's not. Anyway, let's get to Candace Owens' response to this interview with Andrew Klavan. Obviously, go watch the full thing. Don't have time to play the entire hour-long interview, but they talk about Candace Owens and her feud with the Daily Wire and Andrew Klavan quite a bit in that interview, so go check it out if you haven't already. Here's Candace Owens responding to that interview over on X or Twitter. Candace Owens says, "Do not applaud me and publicly label me courageous for the strength it took to point out the flaws within my own community and then do a complete 180 when I notice issues within your community. Some of the same people who openly and rightfully discuss the flaws of BLM believe that their communities are above reproach. This is called racial supremacy. My show will be back soon, and we will continue to highlight the current state of racial supremacy, which hides under the guise of victimhood." So yeah, they always apply. She was referring to that point where Andrew Klavan said that she was hired, to talk about Thomas Sowell, and I don't know the other name that he mentioned, but like MLK or maybe, but she was hired to talk about those things and spread that to a younger audience for the Daily Wire. And now that those things aren't the current thing anymore, she doesn't really know what she's talking about. And here's Candace Owens responding to that and says, "Do not applaud me and publicly label me courageous for the strength it took me to point out those flaws. But then whenever I'm pointing out the flaws within your community, you do a complete 180. And not just that, but they also fire her and take away, her paycheck and everything like that because of the pointing out flaws within your community." Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about this whole Candace Owens versus Daily Wire situation. Andrew Klavan's response. What do you think about Candace Owens' response to the whole thing? It's, like I said, not going anywhere anytime soon. Let me know what you're thinking about this whole Daily Wire versus Candace Owens situation.